This final Big 12 prediction show on the Big 12 College Experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our own Patreon. Score exclusive perks, contests, including our NFL win totals contest at our $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We are also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is offering a chance to win $15 million in prizes with Best Ball Mania. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And everybody, it is football season, so we are brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on any college football bet. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. And welcome, everybody, back to the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is game week in the Big 12. We got action starting Thursday night, and we got a full lineup here this week. So get over there. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at the College Experience. If you're wondering who you're listening to, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. And joined each and every episode. Go check out all our season previews because these guys were joined every step of the way. First up, he was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family names Iowa, and he lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. Yes, I just said all those. Yes, he does have all those in common. He is a walking contradiction. He is Rambling Rush. Rush, we made it, man. It's game week.
It's game week. BYU is officially going to be part of the Big 12. The family I guess Civil War, similar to Troy, is here. Incest. It's happening. So, something like that, right? I feel like the King of Rohan in Lord of the Rings when like it's Helm's Deep and all the orcs are coming and they're like, and he's like, so it begins. I'm ready to go, man. This is great.
And so it does begin, and that means third man in the box. He's batting in the 3-hole. He's got a little campaign shirt on there. Everybody watch on youtube.com/the college experience. Clayton Bigsby 2020. He's got a family civil war going on because he's got family everywhere in the Big 12, whether it's Norman, Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, you fucking name it. He's got his seed spread along in the Big 12, whether in Orlando at UCF, Cincinnati, soon to be Morgantown. He is the Big 12 guru. Troy, the final year, your Sooners in the Big 12. How's it go, man?
I do want to make it known to everybody that if Utah beats Florida, then we will be counting all of Utah's wins this year for the Big 12. Those don't get filed under the Pac-2.5 or whatever they're going to be. We're going to claim them. If they lose to Florida, that's embarrassing, but
then it's a Pac-12 loss.
Yeah, that's all their losses. So no matter what, Utah's going to go undefeated for the Big 12 this year in my eyes because I'm counting the wins for the Big 12 and the losses for the Pac-12. So we're going to be able to pump up the win total for the conference just by having Utah on special privileges. But
and then, of course, with Arizona State, they self-imposed that stuff. So that's Pac-12 stuff. So Arizona State, we're going to leave them out for another year.
They don't have to worry about the postseason because they're not going to get there this year. So to get the ban out of the way, get eligible for the Big 12.
Dude, that was so funny. The first thing I thought of would be like the Cowboys are self-imposing a Super Bowl ban. Like, oh, okay.
They retroactively actively put in a Super Bowl ban.
Yeah, no, and we will get to it. And that's what I did with Houston this last year in basketball. When they were winning, I was like, oh, that's a future Big 12 member. As soon as they lost to Miami, I'm like, oh, no, they're in the American. So, yep, we will have every step of the way when we get to basketball season in the Big 12. But, hey, first up, we got football, and we got our final season predictions and locks, over-under win totals, Heisman, long shots, our favorite over-under plays. But first, those watching on youtube.com/the college experience can see Rambling Rush's final season predictions. So remember, we amended all these because I gave everybody a win over Texas. So I had to give Texas a couple wins when we went back and corrected our standings. But Rush, walk us through your final standings in the Big 12 this year.
Absolutely. So we'll start at the bottom with Iowa State. Any Iowa State previews that was either done by me and Colby or on this show, or at least half of this show, just throw those out the door for obvious reasons. Iowa State have them going 2-10 this year, 1-8 in Big 12 play. Number 13, good old Cincinnati, as we talked about on the show. I think they'll have a little bit of a rude awakening to the Big 12. Not the biggest Emory Jones believer. Especially they think it's kind of the gap year for them as well. So we'll put them there at 13. Number 12, good old Houston. As much as I love Dana Holgorsen when he's here at West Virginia, as much as I believe they should have just paid him the extra $1.5 million and paid him $4 million to stay here at West Virginia, and West Virginia would be in better hands with that. I do not think he's going to have a great year in the Big 12, and I actually potentially could see him being fired. So I think they'll go 4-8 overall, 3-6 in the conference. Number 11, UCF at 5-7. I think UCF, I mean, they'll have some home field advantage. It'll be a crazy place to play. They're going to be a Big 12 powerhouse down the line, especially from Florida. They could be the team in Florida this year. They'll start getting a little bit of a taste of the Big 12. Have them going 5-7, 3-6 in Big 12 play, but hey, they could be in a lot of games. Number 10, I have Kansas. I know this may be a sin to some, especially Troy on the other line when he does his. But hey, I'm still one of those Kansas guys that's, let's see if they can do 2 years in a row. Let's see if Jalen Daniels can stay healthy. I think there's still a lot of questions with Kansas, even though their coach is one of the best. 4-5 in Big 12 play, but they'll go 7-5. And make it to a bowl. Number 9 is West Virginia at 6-6, 4-5 in Big 12 play. It just feels like a 6-6 year for the Mountaineers. Also, Ryan and I do the Ryan and Rush show covering the West Virginia football team and all West Virginia sports. So go check it out and subscribe. We're almost, or if we should be at 1,000 subscribers when we're talking about this. So right next to each other, going from the team I support now to the team I grew up supporting for, BYU. BYU over the years being an independent, they've done a great job of making sure they play the best competition they possibly can. I think they'll do pretty well going into Big 12 this year, especially with their home field advantage. And there's a lot of things that work in BYU's favor, and I think this can be a great league for them, having 7-5, 5-4 in the Big 12. Rounding out at number 7, you'll see the clump of 8-4 is here. 8-4 Oklahoma State, very favorable schedule. Unfortunately, there's this thing that Troy taught me called the choke poke, and it just happens. I have them going 5-4 in Big 12 play, even though they do have a favorite poke choke. I choked up.
You choked on the poke choke. Yeah.
I choked on the poke choke. So maybe it'll reverse jinx them there and they'll finish up there. Number 6, I got TCU at 8-4, finishing the Big 12 at 5-4. I think it's going to be one of those years for TCU where a lot of those one possession games last year kind of even out down the stretch, and maybe they lose ones. I think they'll be in almost every game. At number 5, Oklahoma 8-4, which is a great, as West Virginia fans, we would take 8-4 in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, that can't get it done at Oklahoma. I do think they'll be a little bit better. I do think this is also going to be Venables' last year at Oklahoma. He'll return to being a defensive coordinator somewhere because they obviously play for championships. And if they're going 8-4 and 5-4 in the Big 12, especially with the SEC next year, it's not going to do it for them. Number 4, Kansas State, going to be another follow-up to a great year last year, Big 12 champs last year. I think they'll have another fantastic year this year. A couple of those games I think will come down to the wire, and whether they might win, they might lose, but I don't think that they'll be in position this year to be in the Big 12 championship game again. I just don't think they will be. Number 3, Texas at 9-3, 6-3 in the Big 12. The thing with Oklahoma and Texas, they're going to have targets on their back all season long. They're clearly not going to get their refs any favors from their refs. There's going to be a lot coming at that. Not only does Oklahoma and Texas have to play the opposing team, they also have to play the officials and the league itself. So a couple of those are going to turn into losses, and the Big 12 is going to do everything they can to keep those out. Nonetheless, it is a very talented Texas roster. So that's why I have number 3. And my Big 12 championship, I have Baylor and Texas Tech both finishing at 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. I do think Texas Tech beats Baylor in the regular season, and then kind of like we saw last year with Kansas State and TCU, then I think Baylor comes around, beats Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. And for the second time in 3 years, I think Baylor, they're my dark horse this year. I have a lot of faith in them. I think they're going to get back on track this year, and they'll win their second Big 12 championship in 3 years. And of course, number one, finishing the regular season with Texas Tech, is they're going to be fun to watch. Their offense is going to be explosive. I think Joey McGuire has a lot of things up his sleeve this year, and what we're going to see, I think he'll win Coach of the Year. And I think Texas Tech is going to have an incredible year and do awesome things. And so that rounds out the Rush's final standings for the Big 12 and what's going to be an incredible season. And I'm sure none of those predictions won't get anyone upset online.
No, not at all. Rush, go get yourself a sip of water or a cold beer after that rundown. We will get to Troy. So to recap, Rush has the Baylor Bears 2 out of 3 to win the Big 12 in Dallas, doing exactly what they did 2 years ago when they avenged their loss in the regular season in Stillwater to Oklahoma State, doing the same to Texas Tech. So Rush says sick 'em this year to win the Big 12. But before we get to the Big 12 Guru's final season predictions and Big 12 champion, we got to talk about DraftKings because, God damn it, college football fans, are you ready for week 1? I know I am. DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with can't-miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any college football game, score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode, just like TCU, all the way to the national championship last year, Horned Frog fans. Change comes fast. The only thing that's a lock is great offers at DraftKings Sportsbook. Looking ahead to week 1 for me, let's go right to Thursday night. I kind of like the UConn Huskies to keep it close against NC State and to look ahead to Notre Dame. Take the 15 points. If you remember, I was giving out Jack State for about a goddamn month, and, they got it done against the UTEP Miners. So let's go Jim Mora in year number 2 in the Huskies to keep it close against NC State, who always chokes the bed. Life's more fun when you're in the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code SGP. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code SGP. And, of course, the crown is yours. And remember, I don't recommend this, but if you do have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after insurance. Eligibility, deposit restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKingsSportsbook.com/football terms. All righty. And we are also brought to you by... Nope, that's the next ad read. I jumped the gun there. There you go. I'm still in preseason.
False starting.
Yeah, false start. False start on Moneyline Max. So I will, hand it to you, Mr. Big 12 Guru. Although I did hit that ad read on the 1-800 pretty well there. That was the quickest I got through.
Yeah, if you have an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, call more ladies.
For those listening on Spotify and Apple, if you're listening on 2 times, you're like, this guy's freaking speaking gibberish. So anyway, let's get to Troy. Big 12 Guru, here we go. Your amended Big 12 standings. And hey, we got an undefeated team, but start from the bottom.
Slightly amended. So starting from the bottom, nothing special out of Houston, Cincinnati, and Iowa State. I did kind of pose something to Rush here in the pre-show when you got up to use the bathroom. How many league wins do you think it would take Iowa State for Matt Campbell to win Big 12 Coach of the Year? Like, if they go 5-4 in the league, is that worthy of him winning Coach of the Year this year? That could honestly
get to a bowl game.
Yeah, honestly, that could be a real dark horse. I do have West Virginia hitting that over at 5-7, just like we had them in the preview. Just like we saw in week 0, I think some of these games are getting slowed down pretty easily by teams that can control the ground. I saw the tweet that you put up earlier, Ryan, about them being like 18-5 or something like that when they rush for a certain amount of yardage.
100.
Yeah, when they run for 100 yards, they win like 75% of their games. Let's run the fucking goddamn ball. Just run the ball, please. I do have BYU and UCF kind of in those slots where they're going to have some letdown games, but they're also going to have at least a big upset apiece, I think, especially with their home field advantages. I could easily see those two schools moving up, maybe even into that like 7th or 8th place spot. I've got TCU not really being able to close out the games like they did last year, and not having all of that magic. I did end up giving Texas 8 wins here. It really hurt. I think that might be a little high. But I was high when I did that, so you can't hold it against me. I have Texas Tech and Texas both at 8-4, and I do have Texas Tech winning that game in the last game of the year in order to tie and surpass Texas because of the head-to-head tiebreaker there. I'm pretty high on Kansas, unlike Rush. I've got Oklahoma and Kansas both finishing 9-3. I do have Oklahoma slipping up a little bit. Gundy's going to beat their ass in the last game of the year, so you can probably eliminate any kind of postseason huge bowl game for the Oklahoma Sooners, because that very last week upset is going to – I mean, it shouldn't be an upset when they play, to be honest. Oklahoma State should be favored. I do have Jalen Daniels kind of willing Kansas in that Max Duggan kind of role this year to 2 or 3 more wins than they would have had, or than they have last year. Probably would have had him if he was there. So I kind of trust having that good of a quarterback is going to help. I do have Gundy getting all the way up to 3rd, and I don't know how the tiebreaker would work here between Baylor and Oklahoma State, and that's why I picked them to both go 10-2, because they don't play each other. So I don't know if it's common opponents or if it's just like a point differential or something like that. It would be easier to figure out the tiebreak if it was a 3-way tie, because you would go through the common opponents. But since Baylor and Oklahoma State don't play, they're going to have to figure that out some weird way. Maybe they'll ask us if they can use Kennedy and just flip the coin.
I like it. We need a semifinal game. It'll be the semifinal game.
That would be cool. We get a +1. And then, of course, I have Kansas State going undefeated. Everyone can fuck off. They get all their offensive linemen back and their quarterback. Everyone can suck it. Kansas State's going to be awesome. Trayshawn Ward's going to lead the Big 12 in rushing yards, and I will get deeper into that later when we talk about individual players.
Troy, who do you have winning the Big 12 championship in Dallas?
I would have said that Oklahoma State, if they win the tiebreaker, I think they got a chance to beat Kansas State, and maybe, Gundy's badassery establishes that Big 12 championship, and he finally gets through past the 1-yard line here. But if it ends up being Kansas State and Baylor, I think the ball control of Kansas State, I don't know if Baylor's going to be able to bang with them like that and win a game. They would have to really, really execute on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to side with Kansas State. And because of that, I think the semifinal odds are pretty tasty for the Kansas State Wildcats.
There you go. Whoops. You got the K-State. K-Staters finishing it off 13-0. Goddamn technology is making me click everywhere. There we are. We're back. K-State finishes it off. So you got K-State in the playoff, obviously, 13-0. I don't see a scenario if they goes 13-0 that they're not in it.
They would have to.
Let me ask you this, Troy, in your scenario, they get to, I know we're just a Big 12 show, but if they get to the playoff, can they win a game just like TCU did last year?
No, because they'll put them against Georgia or Alabama and they'll get their ass whooped.
That probably is fair because, we saw it. That Alabama was a bad matchup for them at the end of last year.
If it's Texas or Oklahoma, the semifinal matchup, they'll put them against.
They'll be the 3 seed or whatever.
They'll try to do their best to put them against the Big Ten team and see if they can get a future, a Georgia-Oklahoma national title game, which is kind of scary now that I think about it because they eliminated that game from the schedule. But they didn't eliminate they didn't eliminate Texas, Alabama, but they eliminated Oklahoma, Georgia. How deep is this?
That's a good point. Yeah, no, it's there's SEC, man. That's a rigged league. That's why Texas and Oklahoma want to join forces. All right, so we got 2 down, and you heard Troy. He is all about email out there, man. Happiness is what I like to call it in the Little Apple. Getting to, not only winning the Big 12, but getting to the playoff. Before we get to mine, and oh man, I got a doozy for a certain fan base in my predictions. I'm sure everybody can guess which one I got in mind. We got to talk about underdog fantasy because, hell, What do we got? 3 days left till August is over, and you know what that means. Time is running out to draft your fantasy football team on Underdog Fantasy. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is go over and snake draft because there's no waivers, no trades. You set it, and Underdog does the rest. How about that? That's pretty simple. Try it out. Underdog's Best Ball Mania Tournament, the largest fantasy football contest of all time, with $15 million up and prizes up for grabs, and including a $3 million to the winner. Do you have what it takes? Get over there to Underdog Fantasy. The time is now. The last day to do your fantasy football team is September the 7th. So right around the corner. What do we got? 2 weeks. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com and find them in the App Store and use the promo code SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's the Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Any potential props you like here in week number 1? Troy, are you looking to back Jalen Daniels early and often to start his Heisman campaign, potentially?
I think you kind of have to. I think Kansas is, just because of the start they got off to last year, I think they're probably pretty comfortable with coming out firing on all cylinders and being excited to get Jalen back and him being pretty pumped to be back out on the field. I could see some special statistical performances from him early on for sure.
You heard it there. I mean, I love it. I love Jalen Daniels. We saw what he did early in September last year. So we're looking to the overs as soon as they're available. Get over to Underdog Fantasy. If you got any issues, of course, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And we are back on the Big 12 College Experience talking final season predictions. We are less than 72 hours away from UCF, a.k.a. Central Florida, the very, very Golden Knights, kicking off against Kent State in the opener for the Big 12. All right, here we go. I will reveal my final standings in the Big 12. And holy shit, let's lead it off right in the basement because we got the Texas Longhorns. Texas is not back. And Texas fans, I even gave out your 7 losses for you. You are going to lose at Alabama week 2. You're going to get swept on the road in Big 12 because you're going to have the target on your back. You're not getting a call. You're going to go 0-3 in the Texas trip with Baylor, TCU, and Houston, all losses. And then you'll lose the names because it'll be windy and you'll already have quit. You'll lose to Kansas, to Lance Leipold once again, because Jalen Daniels and Lance Leipold own you. And finally, Brett Yormark already told you are going to lose to Texas Tech on Black Friday to not be bowl eligible and go off into the SEC the right way. So let's get that one out of the way. We're moving along with the important teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, they don't call it Burnt Orange Friday. Just remember that when we get to the end of the year.
No doubt. Hey, I'm hammering this narrative home. As soon as they lose to Bama and Baylor, they're going to quit because they were all set on we're a national championship title contender, and they're going to lay it down against Sarkisian. Sarkisian won't be coaching there next year, and they'll have a new guy, maybe Urban Meyer, to start off in the SEC. Them and A&M will fight it over. So that's my bold take on the Horns Down program in Austin. Moving along, we got the Cincinnati Bearcats in year number 1 at 5-7, 3-6. So that's an over, just like Houston. I got them both barely getting to the over. Finding a way to get the 5 wins, 2-1 in the non-con, find a way to get the 3 wins in Big 12 play. I think they surprised some teams at home. Oklahoma. So Oklahoma was a tough team. We went over them, and same thing as last year. I think they start 3-0 with that soft non-con with Georgia out of there, but I think they struggle in Big 12 play again with that defensive Venables. So once again, another 6-6 and 3-6, and just like Texas, I don't think Venables will be the head man headed into the SEC. You guys laid out the scenario. Iowa State 6-6, 4-5. He might be coach of the year if this happens with all the shit going on. So
I mean, if one more win than that, if they go 7-6 overall, like if they still beat Iowa in the non-con and they go 4-5 in the Big 12, there's a definite shot.
No doubt. And we talked about how they didn't get a break last year. They lost all those close games. They win all the close games, but they're not talented enough to go 8-4, so they go 6-6. So I got 6-6, 4-5. This is the clump for me. BYU, UCF, the newcomers, I think they're both really good at home. Protect home field, pick off some teams at home, whether it's in Provo or at the Bounce House. 6-6, 4-5 in league. That gets me next up to TCU, who I got at 7-5, 4-5. We talked about it with TCU. Their schedule is really, really hard after November. I think they get off to a fast start, then they come back to the pack a little bit, and they just run out of gas. Not saying it's a bad year in Fort Worth, but it's not as good as last year. The magic's not there. Number 6, surprise, surprise. Here we go. Neil Brown saves his job another year. Last year, 5-7. I thought they'd go 6-6 last year. Everybody says they're left for dead, 2-10. Kiss my ass. They're going 7-5, 5-4. They're going to protect home field, and they're going to find a way to get to a bowl and maybe win an 8th game. So we'll see what happens. 5-4.
Kick Pitt's ass, right, Ryan? Kick Pitt's ass.
That's a lock of the season, other than Alabama against Texas. But so yeah, Mountaineers are my surprise team. And honestly, Neil Brown, another Coach of the Year candidate if they get to 5-4. So I got Neil Brown and Matt Campbell as overachievers right now. Next up, I got 2 really solid programs. I didn't know what to do with them. Baylor, Texas Tech. I like both, but I can't like every single team. I got them both at 8-4, 5-4 in league play. Tough to go to Lubbock, tough to go to Waco. They're both going to beat Texas. That's another thing they have in common. Both are better programs in Texas as well. I think both just right there till the end, and they just run out of gas. Another guy that could win it if this is a scenario, Lance Leipold of Kansas. If they go 9-3, 6-3 in league, it's hard to say that they don't get that he doesn't get Big 12 Coach of the Year, coming from 1 win to 6 wins last year, then to 9 wins. Could continue that trajectory. They got the best quarterback in league. And that gets me to my Big 12 championship. Troy and I were both very, very high on K-State. Love that culture with Kleiman. And then obviously we've talked so many times about how great Oklahoma State's schedule is. And Gundy, when expectations are low, that's when you back Gundy. I got Gundy sneaking in as a tiebreaker because I think they're going to beat Kansas on October the 14th in Stillwater in a revenge game to win the tiebreaker to get to Dallas. K-State only has 1 loss, and I think it was to I had it as K-State losing in Stillwater the week before on Friday, October 6th. And I think K-State's going to be playing for a chance to get to the college football playoff, and it's going to be spoiled. It's going to be spoiled by Gundy, who's going to complete the sweep. Oklahoma State, 40-1, wins the Big 12. Coach Gundy, subscriber of the Big 12 College Experience. There you go. That is our final prediction. So,
Ryan, I got to tell you something real quick. I one hell of a sales pitch. Like, you convinced me that Texas is going to be last, which I'm all for. But I want to say thing. If you're right, 5-7 is the lowest place in the league. That's a hell of a that's the best league in football.
That's what happened last year. Last year, Oklahoma was 3-6. They were 6-6, and they tied for last. They were 3-6 in West Virginia. It was West Virginia and Oklahoma were both 3-6. Iowa State. Iowa State was last.
Yeah, I guess I mean it with. But that was a Big 10 with 12. That was a Big 12 with 10 teams. Yeah. 14 teams, and you're still incredible. I
called their losses
hope you're right.
Too.
I hope you're right. I'll just say that. I really do. I hope I'm wrong and you're right, Ryan. If that's the way the Big 12 ends this year, I'll be one of the happiest mans in the world.
If that's the way the Big 12 ends this year, we're going to lose a lot of money gambling because there's going to be a bunch of upsets.
Or we just take the dog every week and win a lot of money. Let me ask you this. In this scenario, who would win Coach of the Year?
I also love how you put in your personal branding, like it's like me and Troy, and then Moneyline Mac with all the dollar bills next to it.
We gotta get your guys' logos. I had that from Cam Kirk. I had that left over. I was like, let me get that thing in there.
No, it was awesome.
In this scenario, probably Neil Brown.
I think Neil Brown might get it too.
I think in this scenario, exactly, Neil Brown's got a chance.
More win.
It might be Leipold. It might be Gundy.
That's a good question. In that scenario,
not Sarkisian.
Sarkisian's can.
Has Gundy won Big 12 Coach of the Year?
Yeah. I mean, he's an all-time, not all-time. He's the winningest coach. He's been there 20 years. He's got
I guess I'm trying to remember the last time he won it.
Brandon Whedon's team.
I think it would be Leipold.
Actually, 2 years ago.
With that, I think it would. They're going to find a reason to give it to him.
If Kansas wins 9 games, it probably should go to the Kansas coach because that job sucks.
I have a question for you guys. If Oklahoma and Texas both fire their coaches this year, which is a really real possibility, do any Big 12 coaches get poached to go to the SEC with them?
You know,
get Lance Leipold for Texas?
Yeah. I heard he might be a name at Oklahoma. I think he kind of fits that. I mean, does Matt Campbell, if he has another tough season, jump? He's be like, man, I've done everything in Ames, but I don't think he will. He better not for one of those schools.
I wouldn't have thought Matt Campbell left before this whole gambling thing, and now that kind of gives him an easy backdoor out. And because of that, I think he might get poached. I don't know if he would be SEC caliber.
I could see him going to like Northwestern.
But like, yeah, definitely another Midwest school or something like that.
Big Ten, chill out at Northwestern, build that back. That's what I see.
So let's get in right into our next segment. Rush, you lead it off. Who is your player of the year, coach of the year, and any other award in the Big 12 that you could see happening?
I gotta remember the awards we talked about pre-show, so you might have to remind me there. Player of the year, and this is based off my predictions, obviously, and it's pretty to the point. If Texas Tech, because they announced this before the Big 12 championship, right? It's all okay. Just clarifying it, confirming. Then I'm gonna have Tyler Show and Joey McGuire. I mean, if they do that and go 10-2, number one in the Big 12, then both of those guys will win it. Because I think a lot of these awards, they're looking for diversity in different schools. They don't want to keep giving it to an Oklahoma. They don't want to keep. So if you're not an Oklahoma, well, you can maybe scratch Oklahoma and Texas right off. They're going to make sure there are no awards, even if they finish 1 and 2. But I think in that case, you're going to give it both of them. So I'm doubling down on my standings.
And Rush, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. Keep in mind too, storylines draw in this. Like they like narratives to run with the good, feel good stories. So they already been pumping Texas Tech. If they are a 10-win team, then they're going to be dying.
That's why I have to go with them. I know it's kind of vanilla, but it's if they're making it, it's like, I mean, and I feel like every league's like that. We just saw it in the NBA. It's like Jokic should have won his 3rd in a row, but they want to mix it up, and obviously he proved it. But it's the same thing. Is they're going to want to look for different schools and different people to give it to, and get their fan bases behind them and going, especially for this new Big 12. And then whatever other ones, Big 12 champion, right? I said Baylor. I think they're going to win it. And then you said longest odds.
No, that's at the end.
Okay. We'll save that for the end.
You're good. Yeah, no, at the end we will do the SGPN signature, our favorite lock, win total, and our favorite future. So we will we'll tease that at the end of the show. Troy, I know you had some alternative bets that are awards that you were looking at, well, maybe on the defensive side. First off, who's your player and coach of the year before you get into your other awards?
So the easy pick and the very top front runner is Jalen Daniels to win player of the year. I think if Kansas is able to win 9 games, he's going to have to do an absolute shit ton in order for them to get to that win number. And he can. So I'm not really opposed to looking at the front runner there and taking him. But I think, especially in the scenario you doubt, if the state only loses 1 game, or if they go undefeated like I have them, and West Virginia can get to that 7-win number, dudes like C.J. Donaldson and Trayshawn Ward are going to be running wild. C.J. Donaldson is going to have 1,300 yards if they win 7 games. I mean, that's at least 700 because they have to run for 100 to win a game. So chalk him up probably like none less than 1,000, I would think. But Trayshawn Ward really fits that kind of smaller, shiftier guy role for Kansas State behind a bunch of corn-fed 5 returning big offensive linemen that really like to downhill block. I think you could look at that if they're going to put out a prop for like Big 12 lead rusher. I would go with Trayshawn Ward. And then there's a chance that it goes to a wide receiver too. So somebody like Brennan Presley at Oklahoma State would have to have a hell of a year if they're in 9 or 10 games. He's going to be asked to convert, 5 or 6 third downs a game. They're going to be just putting at him. And the sneaky guy is Monterey Baldwin at Baylor. He's got a chance to be a lot like Tyreek. Just any kind of short stuff could at any point in time go for 50, 60 yards. I think he had like 500 or 600 receiving yards last year, maybe 5 touchdowns, but he was averaging 17 yards per catch. So he's got the big play in him. And if Shapen can stay healthy, then you got to assume that pretty much a play a week for him is going to be worth at least 40 or 50 receiving yards, maybe, 8 or 9 TDs. I could see him doing something special. And I also really like Dante Corleone at Cincinnati, even though he's a defensive guy.
He's a beast.
He could eat up. I mean, he could get 10.5 sacks and have 25 tackles for loss on just stuff and run plays. I think he's a round 1 NFL pick, and no matter what conference they're coming from, that's still going to show in the Big 12. That's for damn sure. And I got Gundy as coach of the year. I think the mullet gets it done, sends out Oklahoma and Texas with a big fuck you. And the only thing cooler with that picture would be if he was holding like 2 AR-15s with Owen stickers on them.
Oh, I love Gundy. I forgot to say that in my pitch about Oklahoma State. The perfect team, perfect coach to send Oklahoma and Texas out of the league, Coach Gundy. Who'd you say you had player of the year? Chapin at Baylor?
I think it'll probably still be Jalen at Kansas. But again, Blake Chapin's not a bad one to look away from. He got that, like, not going to lose you the game, not always going to win you the game, could manage a team. And if they exceed expectations, or they're actually the dark horse in the league, then that wouldn't be too bad of a pick to think he could win Big 12 player of the year.
I agree with you, Troy. I agree. And that gets me to my player of the year. If Kansas is going to win 9 games, Jalen Daniels player of the year. And honestly, I talked about it with RG3 the year he won the Heisman. They were 9-3 as well. Jalen Daniels, if they win 9 games, he should be in New York for the Heisman, because that defense was terrible last year. And for him to get them to 6 wins was great, which means that he's going to have to take his game to a whole nother level to get it to 9 wins. So I got him as my player of the year. I actually have Kansas sweeping the awards because I got Lance Leipold as coach of the year. If they get 9 wins, I mean, that if we're talking about Kansas getting the 9 wins from what they were, I mean, that's incredible. So I got the Jayhawks sweeping the individual awards in a year where Kansas State wins the league. How ironic. So, and I got K-State winning the Sunflower Showdown once again. All right, guys, final segment before we get up on out of here. Rush, your favorite win total lock. Everybody go check out, if you guys are just tuning in, go check out all Rush's season predictions. And those watching on YouTube.com/the college experience. You can see the graphic that we had up, so you get a visual. I know I'm a visual learner. I can't hear and process at the same time. I'm an idiot, but go ahead, Rush.
Win total. It just, I feel it, Ryan. I'm all for it. West Virginia going 7-5. They're 6-6, man. That the win total, West Virginia will win 6 games.
So over 4.5.
Over 4.5, absolutely. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were looking for an exact or No. West Virginia is going to win over 4.5. Lock it.
Well, and I saw it was creeping up towards 5 on the win total. So yeah, either way, I mean, you're hitting the over easy there.
I've been tuning in, I guess.
Yeah. Troy, what's your favorite win total lock?
I really like the parlay pick you gave out between West Virginia and Oklahoma State. I mean, 4.5, 6.5 for those two teams. Right. We did just seems dumb. Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe West Virginia only wins 2 or 3 games this year, but I just don't see it with a team that can easily. I mean, if you get 5 yards on a halfback slam every time because you got 5 returning linemen, it's going to be, I mean, they like Rush said, they're going to at least get to 5 or 6. I would say 6 seems almost not safe, but 6 seems like a pretty good number to settle on. I can't believe that this over under isn't 5.5. And because of that, hammer the shit out of it. But Oklahoma State 6.5 still, right? They are, they're sitting on the Gundy can't get to 7 wins, even though he always gets to 7 wins.
You think this guy's winning less than 7? No chance.
So those 2 I really like. And the longest shot definitely be Kansas State to make a semifinal appearance. That's got to be pretty long shot odds. I mean, they're plus 500 to win the Big 12. You got to think K-State's just ripe for those numbers, especially if they're going to perform the way they did last year and maybe stay a little bit healthier. I mean, they could have They could have only been a one-loss team last year too.
No doubt. You jumped the gun, Troy. Or back to Rush. Rush, what is your favorite future long shot, or just your favorite future in the league?
I guess it would be Baylor winning the Big 12. I at least getting there. Because I have them up there. They're the dark horse no one's talking about. Here's what I'll say. I'll say this thing is I'm very aware that there is a chance that Oklahoma or Texas may be one of the teams in that. I hope not. There's a lot of other good teams, but I'm very confident in the fact that either Texas Tech or Baylor will be one of the teams in the Big 12 championship. And if you bet both of those, you will still make out. So a long way to say one of those two teams, whichever one you feel more
you got to give out with. One. You got to give out one. You got to stick with
Baylor. I said Baylor. I started with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been your horse, man.
No, I agree. I said Baylor. It's been my horse. I'm sticking with it. I'm letting people know the thought process. I'm trying to be a transparent gambler.
To be honest, Rush, you could really take a stab at multiple teams. Like, for example, just to read off to updated odds on DraftKings, Texas Tech is 10-1, TCU is 16-1, Baylor 18-1, Kansas 35-1, Oklahoma State 40-1. I mean, you got some teams that we've all already made the cases for that could win it, all between 10 and 40. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Rush.
As a third pick, I'm on your guys' side because if Baylor and Texas Tech don't perform, who's it going to be? That's the non-Texas Oklahoma. It's got to be Oklahoma State, because we're putting Kansas State to the side, because that's probably not a good bet. Like, if you're going to bet something on Kansas State, bet them to go to the playoff. Don't bet them to win the Big 12. I just don't think the odds are that great.
They are only 5. I mean, they're 5-1. They're still behind Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, if that's enough, 5-1's kind of the like if you.
It wasn't the 12-1 last year, baby.
Exactly, where you cash in on. So my point is, if you really think Kansas State's going to win the Big 12, I would bet the playoffs. I wouldn't bet maybe a little bit Big 12, but to me that doesn't seem like your best value. But I do, because people are we've talked about this, undervaluing Oklahoma State's schedule and how soft it is, especially now with the Iowa State stuff. That's I might, because we've been talking about stuff and Gundy and what he can do. I mean, that 40-1, that's I like that as well.
I don't. Troy, did you ever find a price on K-State, or are they being cowards and they're not listing it yet?
I haven't seen anything for like a
15-1 to make the playoff.
To make the playoff, I mean, if they're going to the playoff, they're going to win the Big 12, and you get 3 times better odds.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep. So 15-1 is your long shot to make the playoff. I love it. I
guess you get a little bit of insurance if they have like a league slip up or something like that. But I mean, I agree. I would bet both of those personally. I would take them to win the conference and appear in the semifinal. Yeah.
I'm going to hop on that 15-1 in my scenario, because I told you my Big 12 title game where I had Oklahoma State and
revenge.
OK State. Well, I didn't have the revenge. I had it kind of like Utah and USC last year, where everybody thought USC was going to get revenge on Utah, but then Utah just smacked them again. I think that's going to happen again, where OK State sweeps them and Gundy just completely fucks the Big 12 out of a playoff, but he wins the Big 12. So, I mean, he's happy.
That's a Gundy thing to do.
Yeah.
That's such a Gundy thing to do.
So you guys gave out both my favorite 2 overplays on the win totals. West Virginia over 4.5. Come on, get out of here. They won 5 games in the worst year in program history and forever. Troy, Oklahoma State over 6.5. Gundy, death taxes. He's going to at least win 7 games. I'll give out an under for my season wins line.
Oh, I wonder.
Texas. Are you kidding me? 9.5.
Ryan.
Get the fuck out of here. Under 9.5 is my lock.
I'll take that under too.
Yeah, lock that thing up.
I mean, that thing's going to 8.5 as soon as they lose to Alabama. So
yeah, when Alabama runs for 250 plus yards on them, under 9.5 wins for the Texas Longhorns is my lock. And them long shot, man. I mean, does this guy look like he's fucking around this year? I don't think so. Give me Coach Gundy, final year of Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12, to say, fuck you, 40-1 to win the Big 12 as my favorite future long shot. How about that, man? That we made it, guys.
I'm going home.
we made it, guys. We finally are done with preseason predictions. We've been going strong here for 2 months on the Big 12 College Experience with these previews. So that gets us into the next segment. What's coming up next? What's our schedule? Like I said, go over there on Twitter. Follow us on TCE SGPN for updates. Tonight was our final season win totals. From here on out, we're going live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays will be our game of the week, and we're going to do the evening around this time. That's what we're striving for. Tuesday game of the week tomorrow debuting. Here we'll announce it. Colorado, soon to be Big 12 member at TCU for the game of the week. Coach Prime going down to Big D where he played all those games for the Dallas Cowboys. And then on Thursday we are debuting our new show 2 the day after tomorrow. The game day after tomorrow. So a little play on words there, as Rambling Rush says. It's our pick show. We have a special guest every single week on the Big 12 College Experience. It's a former president of the United States, and you guys will meet him on Thursday for our pick show. And sneak peek tomorrow, we'll be releasing our summer project that we've been working on behind the scenes. We went back to back to stomping grounds, broke out a little summer project. So we'll release it on tomorrow's episode after TCU Colorado preview. Rush, you got any thoughts on the schedule going forward?
You guys are going to see our summer project and be like, are these 30-year-olds doing a 10th grade like English project for their high school? And the answer is yes. In that same backyard where we filmed this project is where we used to do those types of projects for high school, right? So we had
C's get degree.
C's get degrees, baby.
We actually had to walk by the old bench that me and kids would sneak out to smoke weed at in high school to film some of the clips.
Hopefully no parents are watching this.
It's legal now. They're smoking too.
Jays and roaches. We left them there.
It's like talking about how I ran the freaking gambling league in high school at those games. So yeah, we were Iowa State and Iowa before they were. So that's what we were doing in high school.
Actually, we almost all, I don't know if you guys were a year younger. So it was like my sophomore high school at Lake Braddock, and we had 200 and something kids got suspended because we were running like a $50 a person buy-in for the NCAA tournament. And we were going to get expelled until they find out there were 13 teachers that were in the league.
Absolutely fantastic.
They had to brush it under the rug. There were like 4 or 5 days in a row where they had 50 plus kids in the in-school suspension room.
Dude, those were the dust ups before the dust ups. I miss those days.
The dust up before the big dust up.
Before the big dust. Shout out to Gundy, he was there. All right. Anyway, let's move along. But anyway, like I said, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, post game reaction after a couple cocktails, couple cold beers, maybe some fireball shots, especially when West Virginia beats Pitt's ass week 3, or when they beat Penn State on the money line plus 900 this weekend. Yeah. So let's take that to the bank. That might be in our cards.
West Virginia Pitt, that's where game day is going to be. And if West Virginia wins that game, Ryan, we'll see the status of that show that day. You might just see this live feed from a sports bar in downtown Morgantown, just
sitting on the live burning couch, like, oh man,
we won. End of show. See you next week.
You might see me and Steve Sarkisian rare form at that USC pep rally back in the day. Anyway, so make sure you're subscribed. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Hey, go check out the College Football Experience. Pick Dundee. I almost said Coach Dundee. Pick Dundee. He is a coach because he's previewed every goddamn 133 teams. Go check out all those previews, all the conference previews. He goes live every single day at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And go check out the Main Guys Pick Page show, which they'll do every Wednesday night around 9 o'clock Eastern. Go check out the FCS Experience. Hey, man, I'm so tired of them releasing these FCS lines just minutes before the kick. I want to see Iowa State, Northern Iowa. That's what I'm looking forward to. So go check out the FCS Experience. And, of course, the college basketball experience, man. College basketball is shit. It's only 2 months away. It'll be here before you know it. We'll be there every single night around midnight. It's a riot. That's what that show is. So make sure you're subscribed to that show as well. We all come together on YouTube at the College Experience. That's all I got, and we will see you tomorrow night for TCU Colorado for the Big 12 game of the week. Let it ride.